Today, we discuss presidential nominee Hillary Clinton's comments on half of Trump supporters being in a, quote, basket of deplorables. Then Nevada's ballot question 1 comes under fire with information revealing Michael Bloomberg is bankrolling the local ballot operation to the tune of $5 million. And finally, a fatal car crash in China calls into question Tesla's autopilot technology as being unsafe and unchecked. 4 UNLV panelists are with us today to hash it all out. Thank you for joining us. This is The Scramble. Welcome and thank you for joining us. Our guests today are UNLV Spanish programming reporter Jennifer Hurtado, political science analyst Blake Johnson, Studio G journalist Jessica Rosado, and UNLV political science graduate David Serabian. We begin on our first topic. On September 9, 2016, Democratic presidential nominee Hillary Clinton spoke at an LGBT gala in her honor in New York City. Mrs. Clinton gave a speech during the gala and reasoned the rise in polls for Trump was coming from his, well, untraditional voter base. She referred to half of this base as being in what she called a, quote, basket of deplorables. She credited this group was made up of racists, sexists, homophobes, xenophobes, and Islamophobes. Now, following the speech, Mrs. Clinton expressed regret in her comments and saying she was, quote, grossly generalistic. But the question persists. Can half of Trump's base be put into a category of nativist, nationalist, and overall racist-minded voters? Or is this just purely hyperbole? David, I want to start with you.
Yes.
Hillary Clinton's comments, do you find them grotesque or do you find them on point?
Well, considering that Tommy Lahren isn't here, I wouldn't describe them as on point. I would say that you can't just toss everybody into a big basket. But I think the more important part about her comment was that if you actually watch the video, is her comment really was in the same tone and cadence as Donald Trump's opening speech when he declared that he was running for president. He said, you know, they're rapists, they're drug dealers. It was the exact same tonal cadence. And I think in her own way, she was trying to channel her own Donald Trump on that. But as far as the text of the comments themselves, the actual content, is that a lot of these people feel very patriotic, and I think that some of them don't have what we would call liberal viewpoints, but
well, let me bring you off that and throw it to Jessica Rosado here. So from what David's saying, there is a certain amount of people who you can consider in that category, but it is considered politically incorrect to do so. Do you find that this sort of rhetoric is not allowed in the political realm, or do you feel that with the current political conditions, it is apt?
You know, I'll say this. Donald Trump has certainly said a lot just in his campaigning. And I feel as though, you know, the minute Hillary, you know, throws in something that could be Donald Trump-esque, everyone's like, how could she? How could she say such a thing? And in reality, in comparison to what Donald Trump has said, I mean, he's gone overboard and has attacked ethnic groups. I mean, he's done a lot that people find extremely offensive. So when it comes down to, do I feel it was okay for her to say, I'm on that teetering line of, wasn't that big of a deal for me.
Okay, so Blake, I'm going to throw it to you then. The NYC did a poll in which they looked at the basket of deplorables that Hillary Clinton was talking about and found products of both cases, that there was 50% that was racist and 50% can be considered informed voters. Do you find that this sort of rhetoric is apt for Hillary Clinton to use, or apt entirely?
Despite the fact that there might be a nugget of truth in her basket of deplorables comment based on the polls that you brought up and several other polls that I looked at, I believe that just categorizing a group of people like that doesn't serve to her benefit. It is the wrong political move. I think that she should place the focus on Donald Trump giving a massive voice and kind of inspiring that fear-mongering and bringing out and campaigning on a racist and Islamophobic and xenophobic platform.
Now, Jennifer, I'm going to give you the last voice on this topic for Hillary Clinton's basket of deplorables. Do you find that this sort of commentary on the political voting public is considered to be politically correct, or do you find that it is considered to be what our political current cycle is, which is flamboyant, fiery rhetoric?
I would say it is flamboyant in a sense. She is trying to resonate with the people who support her campaign. Therefore, she's going to go with attacking his campaign as so. So like Jessica said, it doesn't shock me that she made that comment. She has every right to make such comments every now and then, seeing that Donald Trump does make terrible comments on a daily basis. Honestly, when do we not see a headline with something new that he has said?
Well, speaking of headlines, let's shift from the Democratic rhetoric to that of the Republican rhetoric. Mike Pence, Donald Trump's running mate, declined to call well-known former Ku Klux Klan leader David Duke deplorable. This man, who other than leading the Ku Klux Klan, wrote and promoted his book about curbing, quote, ethnic supremacism of the Jewish race. Pence did call Duke a, quote, bad man at a press conference, but declined to call him deplorable. Is this simply Pence not wanting to name call, or is this a concerted effort to not offend some of those a part of the Trump voting base that would support the KKK? David, let's start with you once more.
Well, doesn't this naturally assume that the word deplorable is a completely accepted term for saying that somebody's bad? Last I checked, especially when I was growing up, calling somebody a bad person was pretty awful enough, wasn't it? I mean, as far as David Duke's racist, all right? I mean, I have an issue with racists. I'm Armenian, all right? My family came to this country because of something they didn't have a choice over, and they were slaughtered for it. So I have a very large issue with people that are racist. And I have an issue with people that are persecuted because of something they have no choice over whatsoever. You know, Dr. King said, I believe that I should be judged not by the color of my skin, but by the merit of my character. And the merit of David Duke's character is, to quote Hillary Clinton, deplorable. Now, that being said, I don't think that we need to hold Mike Pence to some high standard because he refuses to use the word deplorable, or he hasn't paid it more time in his mind than just saying publicly that he is a bad man.
Well, words do matter. So I'm going to press you on that.
Yes.
Words do matter, and deplorable is currently the commentary that is due for David Duke. In this sense,
It's deplorable in what sense? In the last 3 weeks?
it's in the sense that every single political candidate has called him that. So in this sense, it is considered a social faux pas not to. Do you find that this commentary must happen, or do you find that it's okay to not call him deplorable?
I find it a bit ridiculous that calling somebody bad isn't good enough of an insult. I mean, the man is talking about bringing down the Jews and calling that person bad. I mean, you would not say this about Hitler. If anybody on the street said, oh yeah, Hitler was a bad man, okay, that's fine. You wouldn't have to press and say, but is Hitler deplorable?
Right.
I mean, really?
I mean, I really fault the media for this a little bit. They're making a big thing out of something really small. Both Trump and Pence have repeatedly denounced Duke in the media, said they do not support his ideals, they do not want his followers' support. And I think it's just the media trying to make something small out of, or make something big out of something really, really small, because they just want him to use Hillary Clinton's language, and I don't think he wants to.
So Jessica, let me pull on you for this. Is this making mountains out of molehills?
Absolutely. It's like it's been said already. I mean, the fact that we all know that he's a bad man, he's not good. He, promotes violence. I mean, he promotes a group that, if you have a particular color of skin, you are not welcome. So the fact that, the media hasn't had their own headline that says Pence calls Duke deplorable, I mean, it's really doesn't make sense.
So then I ask you, is he making is the media making mountains out of molehills with the deplorable comment from Hillary Clinton?
Yes, I will say yes. Again, to me, deplorable, what it says to me is they're not a good person. Their values are immoral. I mean, things of that nature. So the fact that she happened to use that word in her speech, I don't find it as a reason to not vote for her, or a reason to, belittle her and what she's done and how far she's come.
Well, then let's move from the state of the nation to the state of Nevada. In the state of Nevada, question 1, otherwise known as the background check for gun purchases question, has received significant criticism from its opposition, but not for the background checks themselves, rather from the support given to the question from New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg. This man, who is the 6th richest in the world, has been criticized for playing part in Nevadan politics due to his financial backing of the organization, Every Town for Gun Safety, which is backing the ballot question 1. Currently, those campaign finances from Bloomberg rounds out to $5 million, while the opposition committee, Nevadans for States Gun Rights, has only spent $22,000. Does Michael Bloomberg's $5 million voice call into question the motive for this ballot, or is this just more opposition rhetoric? Jennifer, I'm going to throw it to you for this. Michael Bloomberg has invested a ton more money than any sort of opposition group would, and the motive remains moot. Do you consider this a question for the ballot?
I definitely do. It has every right to be on the ballot. It baffles me. I did do my research to see what interest Bloomberg would have on this question, specifically in the state of Nevada. I could not come up with a connection. I do agree with background checks to a certain extent. I would have to say the opposition groups probably do not have as much power and as much money as someone like Bloomberg, being the 6th richest man in the world. So we do have to look at his background as well. And
So
take that
Blake,
into consideration.
Blake, let's have you answer this question then. Currently, as Jennifer has pointed out, the motive for Michael Bloomberg remains moot, but it can be just as simply understood as him just wanting another state to follow that law. Do you find that that is the motive for Michael Bloomberg, or do you still find that murky reasoning a problem?
The motive, I mean, you can't really ascertain that without him coming out right and saying it. But I do know that the more states that have similar background check laws, the less spillover that can have in other states. So, for example, California passed a assault weapons ban, and it really didn't have much success because people who wanted assault weapons could just come over to Nevada and pick them up and go back in it. So it spilled over. So like I understand the need for uniformity, but I also think that his $5 million to kind of support this is also small in comparison to the power of like organizations such as the NRA, which wield an immense amount of power. And it's kind of a head-to-head thing still. So I don't think that he's outweighing or trumping the other side.
So Jessica Rosado, let me throw it to you then. We are looking at, as she mentioned, as Blake mentioned, the NRA does rely upon a very large amount of funds for issues like this, but we haven't seen much pull from them in this question. Do you find that this question is just insurmountably correct to follow and to pass, or do you feel like there's more than that?
You know, I will say, especially with what's been going on, you know, right now in our current state, I just feel, you know, that there's been this push and pull of, you know, should we have, you know, more control over it or should we not? And the biggest thing right now is I think everyone can agree that there has to be some kind of stronger hold in the sense where not anyone who may be mentally unstable or, you know, whatever the case may be can just purchase a gun and decide that they want to shoot up a school or a movie theater or something like that.
Absolutely right. And what helps is to understand this question more. See, Nevada is not the first state in which this type of question has been passed. In states that have closed the background check loophole, 46% fewer women were shot and killed by their partners. Domestic disputes and suicides have been credited as being lower in states with which this type of question was passed. Looking at the statistics, this seems all good and fine, but the opposition question remains in which this type of law would only make it harder for good guys to get guns, and bad guys could still reach guns through additional loopholes in our state system. Does this law do anything to prevent criminals from obtaining firearms if there are alternative routes still existing to get a gun? David, I'm going to throw this question to you. With those additional loopholes that exist, does this just make it easier for criminals to get guns, or is this an actual bump in the road that will stop criminals?
Well, what's your motivation here?
The motivation
Because you just cited statistics that are things that, except for the fact of murder,
right,
which is a crime, murdering somebody's spouse, when most people refer to crime reduction when it comes to guns is usually gang violence or active shooters. Your reasons that you just cited, which were statistics, do not support the fact that do not support decreasing crime.
So what,
if you want to talk about domestic violence as an issue, that's something else. If you want to talk about suicide prevention, and most suicides, most gun violence in this country is people killing themselves with a gun. That is a separate issue. If you want to prevent people that from giving guns to organized criminals, then that is an issue that should be looked at. Now, as far as organized criminals, when it comes to that, when it comes to this gun show loophole, it's because people go there, they make a straw purchase, they're going to go in, they're going to buy 10 10 pistols or something like that because they have the intention of selling them to criminals. So these people go to the gun shows because they can buy them in bulk, or they'll buy them from a store because they can mark them up when they sell them to criminals, who, when they're selling drugs, they have plenty of money. So those people get through background checks. So how does this stop the people that are already cleared because they don't have a criminal record from buying the guns? I'm not seeing it here. I would love to see something that doubles or triples the penalty for straw purchases, but this seems as an odd way to go about an issue. As far as Michael Bloomberg, he's the 6th richest man in the world. This is an issue that concerns him. He decided to spend money here in Nevada. With regard to the other side, we have open carry in this state. This is a very gun-friendly state. You drive around, there are billboards for gun shows all the time. He's going to need a lot more money if he's going to try and push the opinion of the state.
So then, Blake, I'm going to put you in the spotlight here. When it comes to the background check itself, do you consider it enough in which you are able to support it?
Okay, so here is where I stand on background checks. I think that it is a step in the right direction for people to say that a background check is going to solve our gun violence in the United States. That isn't what it seeks to do. It only seeks to take a small step in the right direction. To say that it's going to prevent criminals from getting guns is also ridiculous, but we need to take steps that way.
And that is a good point. And that's why I want to throw it to Jennifer here. So what is your stance on this gun loophole? Do you think that this background check will actually stop criminals?
I actually don't think so at all. Criminals will always find a way to do what they want to do. If you're selling drugs, if they're definitely going to have enough money to go behind closed doors and get their hands on these weapons. So a background check, again, just like Blake said, I agree, it is a good step. It's setting a precedent for what we can do in the future, what can be on the ballot next election. But it's definitely not going to solve the problems that we have here in this country when it comes to gun violence.
Well, then, speaking of new presidents, let's get to a new president in itself. In 2014, tech company Tesla Motors broke ground for a gigafactory outside Sparks, Nevada. This factory is said to create 6,500 jobs for working Nevadans. The project was given a staggering $1.3 billion in support from Nevada lawmakers in tax breaks and incentives. The factory is said to be able to produce 500,000 cars per year at peak production. But after a fatal car accident in China on January 20th, 2016, when a 23-year-old was killed riding in his Tesla while on autopilot, it drove straight into the back end of a snowplow, killing him immediately. It's a sobering reminder this technology is fairly new and is the crux of a company that Nevada has $1.3 billion riding on. Should Nevada slow down on this tech company and its fatal technology, or let it ride on by? Jessica, I want to throw this to you in this topic. Do you feel that you're able to trust Tesla Motors technology? Would you ride in a Tesla autopilot car?
Not yet, not yet. I just feel that especially when it comes to technology so advanced as autopilot cars. I mean, you're talking movies that I remember seeing as a kid of cars being able to drive themselves. That's really great and cool, and all is well, and we're in the right direction, but I don't see how putting billions of dollars into this project when we don't even know how long it's going to take to really fix this and how long it's going to take for these cars to actually work. Fatal crashes have been happening. It's just too new and too in the beginning stages to be able to be okay with all of that money going into a project such as that.
So David, looking at the technology, do you think that this is something that we're allowed to invest $1.3 billion, allowed switching out for something that you would prefer? In the sense of asking, looking at the technology, I'll pass the same question on to you, I passed off to Jessica, would you ride in a Tesla autopiloted car? Do you agree with Nevada lawmakers?
Due to so far you've asked 3 questions.
Answer all
One,
three?
I need to reframe it for you.
Sure.
You're reframing it as if we have some give into the $1.3 billion investment. If you're referring to Tesla actually investing that money, they're a private corporation that can do what they want. When it comes to the state of Nevada providing tax breaks, which I believe you said was $1.75 billion, well, we wanted to bring a corporation here, and autopilot is not something that is in all of their products. It's only a part of their products. I do believe that bringing infrastructure here, specifically with battery production and car production, and a new specific type of car, is a worthy goal. As far as driving inside a Tesla autopilot car, I am not one of those early adopter people. You would, even if I had the money, I would not have purchased Google Glasses at all, as ridiculous as that was. I do believe that autopilot is going to increase, although I don't believe it'll reach the level of Arnold Schwarzenegger's Johnny Cab, as annoying as that was. I forgot what your third question was. Which was it?
Well, I'll ask you again.
Yes.
Would you ride in a Tesla autopilot car? I know that was the third question that we said. No?
I'm not an early adopter. I'm not going to ride in that for a while. On the note of new technology, though, whenever there's new technology, people are going to die. It happens.
Now,
the number of people that died because of motorcycles when they first came out, when they were first doing racing, you think it was bad now? It was horrible back then, especially with cars, before car safety procedures, before seat belts. Back seat belts, steering wheels used to be just like an old-fashioned World War II Jeep, a bar with a circle. And what happens if you get into a car accident? The sides of the steering wheel are going to break off and you're going to get impaled.
So
people are going to die from new technology, and it's just going to take time to sort it out.
So Jennifer, looking at this, you see people who are in the testing phase of a technology and perishing because of it. Do you agree that this is something a private corporation should be allowed to do in the eyes of Nevada lawmakers? And as a Nevada citizen, do you support Nevada lawmakers for making the decision?
I support Tesla coming to Nevada. I definitely support that. Just like David said, having the infrastructure here is going to provide so much more jobs, more money to our economy, which is something we can always use. To letting the technology out to the public for us to be able to purchase those cars, now that's a different story. Perhaps there should just be more studies, more experiments on the actual technology itself. Just to compare it a little bit, Lyft is currently working on autonomous cars themselves, but they do not want to release them out to the public for another 5 years because they're going to keep testing it to make sure the number of fatalities is as low as it possibly can be. So why can't Tesla do the same? Just keep testing.
So, Blake, I'm going to ask you then. Looking at the technology as a balancing act, we have 6,500 jobs on the line. But in the other end of this scale, we have 2 lives lost and maybe more to come with the new technology. Do you agree this is something that Tesla should be putting on the line or be putting on the assembly line?
So I think that autopilot cars are definitely an inevitability of the future. It's a technology that not just Tesla is exploring. Google has invested money into making a Chrysler minivan autopiloted. I think that the problem with Tesla is that they market the vehicle to young people as extremely, extremely safe. I think that if they were more transparent with the safety and weren't so sure of themselves in their marketing campaign, then it would be beneficial because people would be more aware of the fact that it's not full tested and foolproof yet.
Nevada is being, in a sense, a test market for a lot of this technology. As a Nevada resident, do you feel comfortable that a lot of these new tech companies are investing in Nevada, trying new stuff on the roads? Do you agree with that type of thing? Do you feel like it supports more jobs?
Yeah, I definitely support Tesla coming here. I think that they're very innovative in their technology, and I, again, think that it's an inevitability, and so why not bring it to Nevada first? I would ride in the Tesla autopilot car.
So an important way of understanding this technology is understanding where it will be implemented. The autonomous functions of the car work on highways that have been installed into the system. Tesla car's autopilot function works on major highways in 4 states: California, Florida, Michigan, and you guessed it, Nevada. Do you feel comfortable knowing Tesla drivers may not be at the wheel when driving next to you guys on the local highways? Jennifer, let me ask you that question. Do you feel comfortable knowing that people are driving next to you with these cars? Taking it away from you, do you feel okay knowing that the drivers here as they are now are better off driving next to you while not at the wheel?
That doesn't make me feel safe at all. Yeah, like I said, it's still the beginning stages of this technology. We need to see it unfold a little bit more. Nevada drivers are not the greatest drivers. I've been living here for a few years now, and thank goodness that I have not been involved in any accidents, but there's been plenty of close calls. We are a transient state. We have people coming from all over. We do have to consider that. So I definitely would not feel safe driving next to that technology, at least not yet. I can see it in the future, but like I said, Tesla needs to concentrate more on testing their product before they release it, especially to young people, because young people are so vulnerable.
It's just as if when a car is recalled, you know, some time is taken to be able to put that car back on the market and say, hey, we've fixed everything, it's good to go, you guys can drive this now. So to just have, you know, fatal car accidents where people are losing their lives and still keep it the same and market it and, you know, still keep it on the market, to me, it's not okay.
Well then, Blake, let me have you answer that question. Regular drivers do crash and sometimes park in the wrong spots. So are Tesla autopiloted cars safe in your mind in the sense that you're okay with other people being behind the wheel, not just you?
All right, so I have a couple responses to this. First of all, I think it's an interesting paradox because a long-term goal of the autopiloted vehicle is safer roadways, where there's a lot less human error in driving. And as far as Nevada roadways go, I don't know if you've ever been around a taxi driver in Las Vegas, Nevada. I would feel safer with the autopiloted Tesla next to me because it's like open season out there right now as far as driving goes. I think that, I would mind having Teslas driving around.
Well, they'd be driving around and driving us crazy alike, I think. That's our time. I want to thank our panelists and you for watching our show and let you know while all the other shows, just like Deplorables, will be right here for you on The Scramble. Thank you and see you again.